Morning, everybody. Thank you to the planning board members and staff and Frank Lay as the liaison coming up this beautiful Wednesday morning. God, what day is it already? For this special meeting of the Southport Planning Board. Before we get started, I just want to make sure that everybody's got the cell phones off. If you do. Also, because it's a special meeting, there is no public session, no public communication, if you will. So it's going to be in one item agenda, which is basically to establish the planning board rules of procedure and go from there. So let's get started with, I'll do the invocation if everybody that is able to stand. Followed by the pledge of allegiance. Let's take a moment to center ourselves. As we gather to serve our community of Southport, grant us clarity of thought, respect in our dialogue, and courage to choose what is just. Bless us forward with patience, open minds, and steady hearts. Help us listen with grace and speak with honesty and act with fairness for the good of all. May our work be guided by fairness, compassion, and the common good. Amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I want to dispense from some of the formalities today that we're out. There won't be any motions, but there's going to be a well-rounded discussion is what I'm looking for. So don't feel like to hold back when we go through these. I want to make sure we have a really good, thorough discussion that everybody's happy, because basically rules of procedure. I don't know that I'm going to skip over the approval of the agenda because it's a one item, unless somebody want to make a motion. That's the ones, maybe two motions we have today to approve the agenda.
Make a motion, Chair.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion been made, second. Any further discussion? Here none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, voted. I'm going to also bring in Ed. Kevin is joining us by phone.
He is online watching. We're
Okay.
working on the presenter part. I told him if he has any questions to shoot me a text, I'll let you
Fair
know.
enough. Okay. So Ed will be in for John today until such time if John arrives, then Ed will revert back to an alternate member. As we talk about alternate members in part of these rules of procedure, one of the things I want to make sure we also put in there that besides the alternate members not able to vote as an alternate member, that they also cannot make motions as an alternate member. Just so that's clear in there. So, and I don't think anybody has any conflicts today. If you do, you probably shouldn't be on the planning board because this is all about planning board business. So hopefully you don't have any. So the whole idea of the planning board rules and procedures, you have to think of them as the guardrails of how we do business. Well, the UDO and the city ordinance really tells us legally what we can do and what we should be doing. This helps provide some guidance on how we do it. So as I mentioned last week, we've had 17 members over the past couple of years, and to help bring some uniformity to what we do, the rules of procedure will help make sure that anybody can run a meeting, anybody should be able to run the meeting, and that any new members will actually know how the meetings are run as well. The other part is, and I mentioned this, is when we do the rules of procedure, there are some things that are in the UDO and the city ordinance that talks about the planning board. We need to make sure that they're all in alignment. So with how the meetings are run, what's on the agenda, items like that. And when I did this, I took what other cities are doing for the rules of procedure. And I also looked at, we have something on our website, and I've seen it once, and it said 2010. So this is really, they're in place. It's just updating what we do already. Then I may have, I just couldn't find it again. I think it's just part of when I reorder it in the city website, that'll become clearer. But I thought two things that we could just start is keep this in mind as part of the UDO and what we do and what we don't do. In this UDO 2.13, the review procedure summary, it'll tell you basically under us, we do the final decision for the major site plan, but just remember, we are an advisory board to the Board of Aldermen. So as an advisory board, we have the distinct pleasure of having our own thoughts and our own minds, and that we don't have to think like the Board of Aldermen, and I would encourage you not to have to think in line with them. But we do advise them in the way to provide them with the best advice, be independent, and also be able to speak our minds at our meetings and say what we think should be done. At the end of the day, a lot of these items fall onto the aldermen. If we don't give them good advice, then they're not gonna have what they need to make good decisions. So I don't ever want the board to feel that we have to stay in alignment with the Board of Aldermen. I'd rather be independent, give them really good advice like we're set to do, and let them make the final decisions on things. And that comes also with the major subdivision sketch plan, the major subdivision preliminary plat, the plan unit development, the text amendment zoning map, and the conditional zoning districts. Those are all recommendations we make to the Board of Aldermen. And then that really tells you pretty much everything we do in a, if you will, 2.13. So I also thought, as to do this, that if we jump into section D, the plan board, a second, self-board ordinance B, planning boards, go to section B in here. Put these in pages, just put them in sections. So that's under the Code of Ordinances. You'll see that in it. Again, this tells us what we should do, how we do it. And this really defines the planning board itself as far as being an advisory committee. So this is one of the things that we have to be in alignment with. So what do we do with the rules of procedure? If we change anything, this needs to be kept up to date as well. So which means we have to get approval by the Board of Aldermen. So we can do all the rules and procedures all day long, but if we change, let's say, some of the formats or things that we might do as far as the guardrails, they have to be approved by the Board of Aldermen. They have to be voted on for the city ordinance. So I want to make sure that we keep that in mind as well.
I find it interesting that the planning board guidelines for description is under the ordinances and under the UDO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they need to be kept in sync so that if you're doing, all three of them have to be kept in sync. And I don't know, top down, bottom up, however it works, but at least, and same thing goes, if we change, if it impacts the UDO and the city ordinance, then they'll have to be changed as well. So we need to just make sure.
Why wouldn't it, in the UDO be refer for this definition in the ordinances instead of having both places?
That's what we can certainly ask council. Does it need to be in both places?
And so instead of asking that as a negative, ask that question as a positive, because it may clarify what we're trying to do here.
We'd like to do less work.
Make it as a proposal, which I'm going to track right with you. If something is stated elsewhere, then we should only with purpose include it in this document. That'd be a positive statement. My recommendation would be, well, and then the question would be, is yes, we want to include it. The question would be why? Because we're going to get some stuff, which is, I just opened one packet and I see everything I need to know. What we lose with it is the ability to control these other documents, which we don't control. So there's going to be some statutes that we're going to control. There's going to be some South Coast ordinances that we conform with. And since those are already stated, I think it's only with caution that we put it in here other than a reference. Otherwise, we're gonna, or your point, we're gonna have to always have somebody checking. I'm not sure who that checker is, right? Always checking, hey, are these still in the line? Are these still in the line? Are these still in the line? That was
So you're suggesting that in the ordinance or that in the rules of procedure that we reference more of the ordinance as the ultimate.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
as a principal, to the greatest extent possible, refer to extant authority.
yeah,
Otherwise, this becomes, to an extent, an authority. For example, I noticed in here that it refers to the city website. I don't consider the city website to be an authority on almost anything. I consider it to be a copy of some authority
Mhm.
somewhere else.
which is what it should be.
Right. And so the challenge gets to be, well, who is the website manager? Because now they have to go chase all these, hey, is there a new statute? Did the new statute get reflected here? When I don't have to do all that work and I unload myself from that work, which almost surely is not getting done, by just referring to that document and saying, we're gonna have a latest version or something.
There are two parts to that though, since we're informal.
Yeah, well, yeah, please just. go ahead.
One is we have to be in alignment with North Carolina General Statute 160D,
Yep.
and not everybody goes to that every time they look at rules and
Mhm.
procedures. The other is the Muni Code, which is in some instances, the Muni Code is actually, I believe, incorrect on one item when I went through it related to the term of officers. I think it's incorrect in either the
Yeah.
one or the other. I like the reference idea. I think the
Yeah.
reference idea should be used, except where it may be more strict under the rules of procedure, which the city allows under the ordinance to be more strict. There are a couple different examples where there are conflicts that I searched for with those. So I think that's correct. And Mr. Chair, you asked where it's found on the website. It's about the committee, under committees. When you go down the description on rules and procedures in that section, it says about committee and then it talks about.
Yeah,
who's
no,
there.
and what I meant, yeah, I know that's there, but there was somewhere where I actually saw the reference to 2010. And I could not find that 2010 reference ever again. I
Okay.
saw it that one single time. So yes, you're absolutely right. I think it needs to be clearer too.
Yes,
Yeah.
there are some, and that's some of the stuff I thought we were working on today. Where do our rules need to be maybe more succinct, more clear? And the reference helps the most in referring them back, because it also teaches everybody that there are higher authorities.
So do you think,
Not reinforces, not teaches.
so,
Yes,
so should we have a section in there, even with wording? I think that we do have it. Let's see.
Under general rules.
Yeah, it's general rules. We do have the references to those. Um,
and, where are you going to there in your page?
Well, I think under the general rules on page 1 of the draft rules and procedures. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How are these?
We're on the very first page of procedures. Ed, I'm gonna have to just step down again and all of that. But
Glad to be there.
you're more than welcome because it's open and any folks, you're welcome to discuss as well. Like we started having ping pong back and forth, but I appreciate your patience. So maybe we need to be more clear on pointing that out on that city ordinances. And you brought up a couple too, because I'm thinking, what about the UDO? Should the UDO reference the city ordinance with respect to the planning board's rules and procedures and things like that too?
So we're not to that yet, but here's, because we should probably set a couple of principles as we go through this document. Or
Yeah.
else if it's just gonna get to, you know what, I'm tired and I'm hungry and sure, why not?
Yeah,
I think the couple of principles are make the fewest words say, have the most meaning. That way we get a document that's this big, now down to this big.
sure.
And then, if there is an extant authority, and we've already mentioned that it's an authority, then we refer to it instead of reproduce it, and that gets this document down to this. And what this document becomes is when, our extant authority for rules of, procedure, or rules of order, or the statute or the ordinance doesn't go as far, to Maria's point, as we want it to, or we want to do it a little different here in Southport on the planning board, that goes in here as the supplement. I don't want to say exception, but perhaps more stringent. So for example, there's some text in here about what well, actually, we came across it in the last meeting, which is I abstained from a vote, and that abstention was counted as a yes,
Right.
which would be in contradiction to, for example, Robert's Rules of Order. And the question is, but it's written down here. The question is, why would that be? And at some point, we're going to get into this discussion because that's an important parliamentary procedure, which is an abstention is typically not a yes. It's not a no. It's an abstention.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we'll get to it, but that's that's an exception for us, for example, Robert's Rules of Order. And it's a pretty important thing.
But Robert's Rules of Order are not a legal document. And if you look at 160D from the North Carolina General Statutes, the goal is to make sure that someone doesn't evade the answer for political reasons,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so Robert Rules of Orders are a nice way to conduct meetings, but not everybody conducts meetings by Robert's Rules of Order, where legally, cities are required to meet certain other obligations.
Yeah, we just need to be aware of that, Maria, and we need to be purposeful. And why are we doing this? Because it may be, this is our safeguard against people trying to evade. There's other language in there though that safeguards that. So I think I mean,
Just remember, this is also just a guide. It's not a legal document. So it really provides methods for the planning board to act and not, it's not the be all end all. And it's not that you're ever going to go into court and say, well, you violated rule 22.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the judge's going to go, what's that? You know,
Yeah.
it has no legal bearing anyways. So yeah, so just remember that let's not let perfect get in the way of good.
yeah. And I think along those lines too, Larry, that's what I'm saying. Let's be careful making something will reproduce and allow something else.
Yeah.
Because I think, and this is the discussion, what are we trying to do here is we're trying to give, for example, a new person the easiest insight into how we do business here in Southport. That would be different than the general way meetings are held yeah.
It's also available to the public too. So people that are interested want and have the same question you have. You know, so wait a minute, he voted no, so why does that count? Well, it references, you know, state law and
Yeah.
everything else like that. So
That would be a reason, by the way, to copy something and put it here because we think it, again, to Maria's point, I think you're not going to go digging in statute. Hey, citizen, let's just make it easy for you to get some insight on what we're doing here. And this one is really important enough for us to reproduce.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So why don't we go step by step? On page 1, the purpose, is everybody, and I'll walk through these. Just when you say stop, we'll stop. Okay, so that way we can, if I don't hear any opposition, then I'm going to assume that everybody's fine with that particular chapter, verse, section, page, all that sort of stuff.
Even before we get there, can I just ask a question? The table of contents, so 15 articles. Was there a schema of like, hey, Article 1 always represents something, then comes Article 2, or
In here,
yeah? Was there, not that there needs to be, I'm not sure if we were trying to have it.
you mean, is there an outline that I follow?
Yeah, or does it reflect statute or ordinance or some, hey,
No.
this is how the town organizes?
It's basically taking what other cities and towns have done,
Yeah.
including us,
Okay,
and kind of meshed it all together.
got it.
So this is a compendium, or however you want to call it, of just a lot of different cities, what they're doing, what they're looking at. And the idea is, when I do these sort of things, I write through everything in the pot.
Yeah.
Stir it up, and see which ones we need to just, there's, redundant and don't have any practical purpose at all.
There's no changing editing in here.
No, this, not yet. What do you mean by that, I think?
Well, you're referencing other cities.
Yeah.
You're not pulling some of that into here.
No, they are. Oh, yeah, I went through other cities and said, I like what this says, let me throw it in.
So you've authored this.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I guess that would be the authored it. I combine things from other cities, so it's kind of a nebulous authorship. I wouldn't sit there and say, I wrote this line by line, not a chance. This is way beyond my capabilities, law firms and other people have done it, so. All right, purposes, are we okay on the purpose? Because we do reference that, the purpose of the planning board shall be set forth in the city of Southport, under chapter 13, article 2. I don't assume, Madam, Assistant City Clerk,
A lot of names.
is that always, gonna be under chapter 13, article 2? Would that ever change in the city ordinance? Is that, as what Doug said, is that a standard practice for that section? So, or do we need to put more revised or something like that? Because what I don't want to do is have to redo this document every time the city ordinance changes.
Let me find out for sure. I'm not sure. I'm not certain.
All right.
Larry, you might consider putting links in. You point to the document so that the reader could go and find, 160.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good idea. I would only say right now, I know the city's going through a whole website rehab, and this community code is going through the city ordinance, all this other stuff. So those links would change, but I think once they're stable, yeah, I think that would be, that's correct, isn't it, Cheyenne? That you guys are working on a new website.
Yes, I can't speak to Muni Code, but the new website should be up sometime this fall. And then I'm happy to sit down with you or representatives from the planning board.
Yep.
Excuse me, to look at what we need to update or change or edit.
Sweet. And Wendell, same thing goes with the UDO as well with Municode. Aren't you working on that as well?
Correct.
Okay. So, yeah, so I think once those are all set.
A recommendation would be to put the links at the top prior to the purpose, so you could leave all the wording the same, so that when they update,
Yeah,
you have a single
Right.
link at the top, so that the individual may read 160D first, and then go to the Muni Code, and then go to the rules, or vice versa. They can refer back and forth. But it makes it simpler so that you don't have to insert and update links in each
yeah,
section.
Right, and to clarify, my suggestion was to put a link to to the overall document, not a link every time you refer to a specific section later on.
oh, I see. Oh, I think you're right.
Same thing, right? A general link at
Okay.
the
A
top.
general link, or you can put it right in A, and then
That way it's
we'll
right.
have to.
You know, it's what is it?
Chair,
Sure, sure.
it should stay the same unless there's an ordinance that's passed to reorganize the code, but it should stay the same.
Are you gonna reorganize the code?
Probably not. Only if directed.
Yeah, looks like you have many ideas.
By using links, that's assuming one is using a computer with the internet.
Yeah,
And we all have copies of the UDO in a notebook. So how's that gonna link up? Maybe it's be a reference and a link.
yeah.
You can actually put an asterisk or a comment on the first page that says it is your responsibility to find the most current UDO or the most current source document. That puts the burden on the individual reader versus us updating the paper related to that or printed copies of the
It's almost like a
UDO.
preface of the document.
But what I'm
Yeah,
saying-
Yeah.
In this day and age, Fred is correct that, yes, we have a lot of hard copies out there, but all hard copies should come with a responsibility that you go to the current linkage in the rules. That way you have current rules, but you also have the ease of using hard copy, which I do both
Yeah.
back and forth, probably because I read better in hard copy, but.
Well, maybe that's where, if we do a preface and we put that sort of commentary in there, it's up to the reader to go to the proper site. Maybe that's where we could put the links to, for the
Yeah.
160D and the UDO and city ordinance that way. And say throughout the document, the reference, go to these links to actually find
For the
them.
most current version,
Yeah.
because that's what it will link
Yeah.
to, is the most current version.
Yep,
And Larry, I know you like to put dates in the footers and all, we could do rev numbers, rev.
yeah.
So that, somebody who's
Right.
picking this up, but if you're looking at rev 2.
Yep.
If you go to the website, there's a rev 3. And.
I love it.
Yeah,
So-
version control, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, because hopefully it won't be a
We
rev
learned that
3
all
in our
in
lifetime.
city place.
Well, yeah, so here's a question, because you could put the, the revision or the addition that you're referring to, you could put latest edition / revision.
It's actually called current version.
Current version.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So what that gets you something, which is, it relieves you a little bit of the burden, which I think we probably have more burden than we have time and ability and effort of constantly going, hey, is this still good? Is this still good? But what it does is create a bit of a blind spot, which was, you know what, when I looked at it, it was version 3, and that's what I was pointing to. Now it's version 4. Hope that's still the same reference. And that's where, you know, again, we're coming to this balance of, I want the lightest possible document that says that gives the most value, and that requires the least amount of sustainment effort. And yet I realize that I gotta touch it sometimes to make sure it's still tracking with these links that are these extra.
Yeah, I think ideally, once the city's new website is rolled out, these sort of things will be out there, and and we'll work with Cheyenne on how we make sure the procedures are in place to update everything.
And, I mean, you hear all these discussions on the historic district document. We have a new one, it's there, as it the newest one, you know. Nobody's referring to it by
A version of, yeah,
It's a draft,
Yeah.
right? But, you know, after this is finalized, you know, we can always refer to it as the current revision number.
Yeah.
It just relieves us of a burden, and yet there's a bit of a blind spot. There, you mentioned 3 references, and I think if we, and those may be like, hey, this is trying to encompass those 3. There may be 2 more. One is do you want to refer to the public meetings? Is it 143, I think, right?
open meeting law.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, you and I have talked about that, and I've been edified by it.
Yep.
And by your extension of it, like, hey, we want to do it a little bit even more stringent. And we're going to get to this in just a moment, but in a second, you know, there's a reference here to what we're using to guide us. And you mentioned the North Carolina, I think, Institute of Government Publications, right?
Center for Public Leadership and Government.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And
They've got some great stuff out there.
they do. Interestingly enough, you got, well, at least for the access I had, even through the library, even through North Carolina Live, I couldn't get to it. So it's like $30 a pop. So wasn't quite that motivated.
Other books,
Yeah.
I think I've got at least one, actually I've got both of them that they recommended, so if you ever want to peruse them.
Okay. So here's
$20.
$20. That's right. Yeah. For real. I'll just bring them down. So what I could read of them, they referred heavily to Robert's Rules of Order.
Yep.
And there may be some interesting schmack about North Carolina that they're just dialed into. But even the references they made to what Robert's Rules does and does not do were not correct, according to Robert's Rules. So I would recommend that we choose one or the other, because I think either one of those are sufficient. Not choose both.
Get to stop with there for a quick question.
Yeah.
So you're saying what's out there under the guidance of state government is not correct?
Well, in their preface, it's like, why are, hey, we're here in academia, why are we doing this?
Yeah,
Well, it's because Robert's Rules of Orders are for large legislative bodies.
yeah,
And if you go to Robert's Rules, that's precisely what they were. They were taking the rules
Yeah.
and procedures
Yeah.
of the Congress and saying too complex. So Robert's Rules is really complex. It's not good enough for my local church body. So I'm Robert's, that was his experience. I think we shared enough. That's why he was motivated to write it. So I'm not making I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying we don't need both. I think either is sufficient.
yeah,
You use one or the other. I would propose Roberts because it's very accessible. Everybody knows, but not everybody. Most people who are familiar with, okay. The North Carolina thing, I never heard of it until I came here and started, looking at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either one's good. Either
Yeah,
one's sufficient.
I'm gonna disagree with you. I'd rather use the North Carolina government, central government
Yep.
guidance.
Good.
Because I think it's been tailored to fit our needs for the various boards and what have you in North Carolina itself.
Yep.
So,
I think either one is sufficient. I think, we shouldn't use both.
well, we can add them as references.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't really care if you want to add Robert's Rules of Order as a reference to it, as a general reference. It doesn't harm there either.
well, because they're maybe not the same. And it's
Yeah,
gonna,
no, right, I understand they're not the same, but if somebody really wants to learn about Robert's Rules of Order, yeah, they could have the same question that you have.
the challenge gets to be is, hey, they do it a little different in North Carolina than Roberts. Which one?
I'm sure a lot of communities do it a little different. And you don't have to raise it, just jump right in.
I would say it's maybe superfluous, because once you approve the rules and procedures, both are guides and allow the discussion of the group to come into some orderly fashion. I'm okay with both, even if there are disconnects,
Yeah,
because the final rules really come down to the Muni Code
Yep.
and 160D. And I think that we might get too hung up on what those citations are, and we should really look at what's good order for the planning committee led by the chair. And so, all great, and there are disconnects in everything in life, but for the most part,
Because
I'm
at the end of
okay with
the-
both. It's guardrails.
you're right, it's guardrails. So,
Okay, I'm gonna make one more comment and then I'm gonna stop because I sound even to myself like a pedant.
you start one.
Pedantic, I'm sounding like an academic and I
Okay.
don't want to be. Has anybody read Robert's Rules of Order?
Yeah.
All the way through?
No,
Me neither, man. You know, how right? It's huge.
it's things. I actually have it in my office right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've got like 3 versions that I've tried, since, hey, man, it's
Yeah.
like we're using Robert's Rules. I better brush up on this.
The truth is, Robert's Rules, nobody's ever gonna use every single rule in there. It's really the general rules that everybody's familiar with.
Yes, and nor are they meant to, you don't need all the rules in there.
No.
Okay, so has anybody read the North Carolina Institute or whatever rules?
Yeah.
All the way through, Maria?
Most of it.
Okay, all right.
And again, I look at it, is it practical? Is it applicable?
Yep.
Does it move forward? When I look at that, I also think that North Carolina, both Public Leadership Center and Council of Government have a bias. There are some biases within both. One tries to be more objective, but the North Carolina government has a slight bias to it in the way they want government to perform. And so I use them as a rule of thumb. I don't use them as an absolute. There's no Bible.
Yeah, and truly, there's not anybody that's gonna go blasting in the door with a taser saying, you're doing this wrong. And I'm gonna tase you if you don't stop.
Yeah,
So it's really, you have to think of it as, listen, when you chair a meeting, there are some people that run very strict, very detailed meetings. I tend to have a wider latitude because I'd rather have good conversation. So there are things that I might pull people in on, but I would really rather have, we're all equal members. And I want discussion at board meeting. I really dislike when you have a group of people, intelligent people, who don't talk and votes are made without any discussion. And I never want to get to that point. So I will always have a freewheeling, reigning meeting to make sure that everybody gets a voice and everybody has an input. So I'm not going to say you're on order, unless it's really flagrant.
if you feel like you guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'll make my point.
Okay.
Then if we refer, it's not like hurt my feelings, just that once we refer to it, we're kind of saying that's how we play pickleball here.
Yeah.
And people are
That's
going,
what they-
okay, why did I played pickleball different where I came from, but apparently, so the fewer references that are sufficient, I'd suggest the better. And what this does, it should say, over there, it kind of does it like this. You're going to take Maria's point, and yours too is, but here we're kind of a little bit less formal, and here's how we're going to do it here.
Yeah.
I don't need to restate what's over there. I just need to state what's different
Yeah.
here. Okay, now I'm folding off on that. I'll make the observation one more time, though, there's a reference to both of these.
Yeah.
One, the North Carolina stuff at the beginning, Robert's rules later on, and we just may want to clarify that.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we get to those, if we don't have it clear,
Was it compromise? Is it possible that we refer to both and say these are guardrails at the discretion of the chair and how they want to facilitate the session?
Yeah,
sure.
right.
That puts everything.
But the discretion of the board, really the board, because listen, as far as I'm concerned, you can have all these rules in here. And if you don't have something that allows you to go outside of the rules, then that just makes it too onerous. So if a motion is made that, hey, I want to suspend the rules, you do that.
Today we're going to play pickleball this way.
Yeah, right.
Well,
I'm telling you, today is different than, all the other days. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, the whole idea is just to have a guide. It's not, we're not going to get tased if we don't get it right.
Sure. I just, Larry, this is pretty good work. I just, you kind of hate to do good work and then shelve it and nobody looks at it because it's like, I didn't need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I think should be, I needed it to do here in Southport on the planning board.
Okay.
Larry, the last sentence of Article 1 kind of sets our guardrails, right? Where there's a conflict, the statutes and ordinances.
Yeah.
So, that if there's conflict in the future, if a taser guy comes in, that's the guardrails that we ultimately have to follow, right?
Right.
Chair, I just wanted to let you know that Kevin is online with us now.
Okay.
He's able to speak.
Good morning.
Good morning. Did you want to speak?
Yeah, well, on this issue of having both, unless there's a specific downside to how we function as a board, meaning how we make decisions and what our impact is on the city. And I don't think I've heard that. I think we just move forward candidly with using both and not trying to do micro analysis of it, when at this point, and no definitive downside to doing it that way. That's just, after hearing all the great suggestions by everybody, that's just what I think.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. In the books I was referencing are at the bottom of this page, which are the suggested procedure rules for local appointed boards. Let's see. Is everybody okay with Article 1A and B? And for now, take that as a yes. Under Article 2,
Question.
go ahead.
There's a clause in there, these rules do not encompass something. Is there a value of saying what this thing does not do? So if we took that out, did we lose value here?
Where are you?
So in A purpose,
Yep.
about halfway through that first paragraph, these rules do not encompass North Carolina open meeting laws or North Carolina DEQ records.
Yeah.
And yet they're bound, if they're bound
We're
by
bound,
that,
we're
right?
bound by open meeting laws. And it's really not our purview. It's really under the city clerk, assistant city clerk.
Yeah, so what I suggested, we just eliminate that. I don't think it's telling us something that we don't already know.
Actually, I think it's a negative sentence, the way it's written. And what I think the chair was trying to write in here is that these rules and procedures do not include
Right.
the North Carolina open meeting laws or the North Carolina development records retention laws, yet we are required to follow them for the UDO. The sentence is written as a negative, but I think what it means is that we didn't include those meeting rules or those open meeting
Yeah.
laws or the NC herein.
Yeah.
And I would just put at the end of North Carolina DEQ records retention laws herein.
Yeah, and it does say it's a general rule, professional staff will ensure all state and local requirements are met, and that's what those are. So it's not up to us to meet them, it's really up to folks sitting at the other table.
And
What would you like to do? Would you like to?
I would like to change the word encompass to articulate, and then I put a comma and a herein at the end of that sentence. In other words, you're telling me I still have to follow the open meeting laws, which we do for zoning and recommendations to the board, but I'm not gonna incorporate those rules here in this document. Herein.
So give me the word of that again, please.
Just change the word encompass to articulate.
Yep.
And a comma after the word laws with the word herein.
Okay.
We have a lawyer online who can help me.
Again,
I know we do.
All right.
where-
So
Kevin, right? Isn't
A
it?
and B, good? All right. We'll make those changes. Powers and duties, it's very clear, it's specified in section, chapter 13, section 2 of the city of Southport, North Carolina, Code of Ordinances. I am not looking to change any duties or powers, so I don't think there should be any changes to those, to the city ordinance with respect to those whatsoever. Okay, I don't think anybody else is either. So, this is a word also says during any meeting, alternate members shall serve in place of absent members or vacancies shall be considered members during the duration of the meeting. Seated alternates will be referred to as ASMs, shall have the same rights as members or temporarily seated absent members or vacancies during any planning board. So that spells that as well. The reason why I left members, at one time, there actually were 2 alternate members on the planning board. I could put that in the, take off the S.
Put parentheses around it
Yeah,
in case
put
we ever go
parentheses, yeah,
Yeah,
around the S.
yeah,
that was because of the ETJ
yeah.
alternate.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't, well, I don't know why they didn't keep 2 alternates, but so be it.
So I'm not sure. Probably David's opted in. I think this is already in chapter 1326.
Yeah,
Is there a good reason to reproduce it here?
just general knowledge,
Okay,
yeah, general knowledge.
because if I've read 1326 as a board member, which I should, then I don't need it. It doesn't help me, but I'm compelled by that. Yeah, but if it's open to the public, just the public's being guided.
Remember, this is a guidance document. This is one so that members can sit at a meeting in references without having to go dig through chapter and verse of
Yeah.
laws. And
Okay.
this is really by reference, which we'll put in here. I understand what you're saying. But I just think that, yeah, I just look at this as a guide,
Okay,
not as a Bible.
yeah, good.
Yeah. And I understand what you're saying. But let's keep that thought though, too. There's some things that are so far unnecessary. Okay. So appointments and terms, planning board members shall be appointed by the board. Okay, on Article 2, everybody. Okay, I'll make that change on the S's. Planning board members shall be appointed by the Board of Aldermen via affirmative majority vote. They'll be sworn in. I have a question for you, Tori. If Ed, as an alternate member, and he becomes a regular member, does he have to be re-sworn in? Or is he sworn in as an alternate? Because it seems to me that when you were sworn in, did it say alternate member? You just said.
Yes, it's I would assume that he would need to be sworn in as a full-time member.
Okay, it's just more of a general question than anything else.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
he was sworn in as an alternate. I guess I would assume that would be the appropriate thing.
Okay. It's just more of a general, because my thinking is that he's already been sworn in, so I don't know why you have to do it twice.
Yeah, well, he was sworn in as an alternate. I guess it would just be like if I was a deputy and I was sworn in as city clerk,
You'd have to do it again,
I would have to do it again.
because the role change, in a sense, the role changes. Okay.
There is no mention of, interviewing candidates in the,
No, because that comes under the city ordinance with respect to how they do it. Personally, I think that needs work. Um, But that's for another conversation, I think, because that really is guidance to the, Board of Aldermen. They set the rules on how that's being done. What are your thoughts? It should,
I think the interviewing process is, if I remember correctly, included in 160D. I think it goes to for 160A. There's a portion of one of the hierarchies that talk about the alderman selection. I'll have to go back and look.
yeah, I think it was something that
I will.
chapter verse, so I can take a look at it.
Okay.
Just for that, it's a good reference to have, which we could add in here as well as a reference, you know, for,
I think it should be defined somewhere.
yeah. It is in the ordinance. And it'll tell you that if, when the terms are up, they're supposed to be done in April, so
I
that
think
way,
you're right.
by the end of June, everybody gets appointed. I've seen some communities that have said that when the term is up at the end of June, the term is up, there is no float into the next month. Where under the previous city clerk, I asked that question because I was on one of the boards. They said, continue on the board as if you've been reappointed until such time that you're not reappointed or appointed. Where other communities go, no, you're done June 30th unless you've been reappointed.
Don't show up at the next meeting.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not that strict, and nor do I don't think our ordinance really speaks to that. This is just a city clerk, former city clerk, a couple of them ago, saying this is how you do it. But anyway, so the ordinance itself within the planning board, under the chapter 13, section 2, will tell you how it's done and how you'll have the liaisons and the chair do the interviews unless the chair is, or the vice chair is being interviewed, then the mayor steps in. To me, that's a very limiting, just my opinion, that's a very limiting factor.
Actually, it is, all applicants must be interviewed by a committee selected by the Board of Aldermen, consisting of 2 Board of Aldermen members and the chairman of the planning board. If the
Right.
chairman's term is expiring, then the vice chair shall sit, which is
Yep.
what we did this year. It's on page 2-4 of the UDO.
Okay.
So what are we kind of considering paragraph G here? Is that in cases where appointments are not made by the board of aldermen, like June 30th, et cetera? That we're kind of using in this, what duty, because that's a real practical. You know, COVID is kind of, hey man, everything just slowed down and yet the term finished and what do we do?
Yeah. Yeah, so but the other part of that, Maria, is it also states that if the mayor is involved in the interviews, isn't it?
No, it did not say that.
I thought it was if the mayor and the chair and vice chair are up for reappointment, then the mayor steps in.
Let me go back and look 1 second.
And it's really not a bailiwick anyways, that's really
Because
belongs
the past cycle was liaison,
yeah,
vice chair,
right,
because the chairs
was up,
was up.
right.
There is nothing in there about the mayor.
I think there is some on different boards that have the mayor.
Some, because I think beautification has, the mayor will step in. I think the cemetery committee may say that as well.
Yeah, I kind of pulled it up.
So the planning board doesn't have that. So that makes it very limiting. So the mayor has to be involved, where I think the mayor, it should say the mayor or the designee could be involved. But
But there's nothing in here.
yeah,
like
for the
that.
planning board.
No.
Yeah, so the words aren't consistent through the different, boards.
It may be because the others, the Board of Adjustment that's quasi judicial, don't know,
Don't know. Yeah,
but we're not looking at those rules.
no,
So
thank you. Yeah, I know. I'm good with that too. We've got enough with our own.
So ultimately, the process with the planning board and selection of candidates is a recommendation. That's all it is.
That's right.
And the alderman can pick these 2 over here, but these 2 are the applicants.
They could, yeah, they could. It again, because.
but they all have to interview.
It does say the mayor.
Where did you see it?
It is. Are you looking at meeting code, chapter 13?
No, I'm not looking at the Muni code, I'm looking at the UDO.
Okay, in the Muni code is where you'll have to look.
So the UDO is not consistent with the Municode.
Well, Tori, is that for the interviews or is that for, outside of the interview? Are you looking at section 1326, like the third paragraph?
Yes, the third paragraph in thirteen
I
fifty-six.
think, is that not about interviews?
So at the end of the day, the ordinance is what rules, the UDO is what follows, but the UDO should reflect exactly what's in the ordinance. And it sounds like it might not.
Well, it's not that it divorces itself from the ordinance, it's just that it's more of a land use documents that provides guidance for land use.
Yeah, but I'm a stickler for making sure that things are consistent down the line.
And that's why the muni code is gonna be a little bit more involved, whereas in section 2 of the UDO, it's just a guideline of what the planning board's responsibilities and rules are.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that, because it's voted on by the alderman, so it's an ordinance. So it needs to be consistent with the Municode version. It's not hard to do, all we'll do is we'll go through them, compare the two, and make sure that they line up, and we'll make a recommendation to the board.
The UDO can be stricter, which it appears it is, but it means that the Muni code has not been updated.
Yeah.
My other comment would be, since we jumped to G, you have a typo, Larry, on number C, where you have 7, but you have the number 1.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah, got it. Yep. Thank you. I want to go back to mention G on that Article 3. In that, seats continue until such time that, somebody else is appointed. Are you okay with that?
I think, this is no small thing.
I've always wondered legally if that's correct. I mean, because you think about it, your term ends. If you look at what Tory does, your term ends on June 30th. And I don't know how that, some of this prior city clerk, a couple of city clerks ago told me you just keep on going on. Fortunately, it was just the, I think it was beautification. So it wasn't, it's not like we're making laws or things like that. But I think it's worth asking the question, is that correct to be able to continue on?
So I think the first question is, what do we think serves the public best? And is it continuity? Or is it, I'm not quite sure I put this, but no, when your term is done, Doug, your term is done.
Yeah.
And we're planning on that, because because people will plan on, hey, I see how Doug thinks. I can see now with last year, I really want to put my motion before the board before he leaves or after he leaves, or Larry or Ed, whoever, right? Do we want to acknowledge it and accommodate it? Because you know what? That's the game. Those are the rules and you played well. Or do we want to say, no, sometimes for the benefit of the city, the way that the city serves the public is continuity is most important. What that does is allow the board of aldermen, if you will, to not have to act.
But that's addressed elsewhere where it says that if your term is expiring and you wish to continue, you must apply and re-interview.
Based on the ordinance.
Yes.
Yeah, well, the discussion here is, cool, yeah, but we're not holding interviews right now because influenza, because.
City, one is to allow the city to continue to operate versus having it dead in the water.
Yeah.
With Zoom and all the other technology proven through the pandemic, I would say we're like working on little issues, but I think there's an accommodation there anyway.
Well, I think we may be talking about different things, which is, if the rule is the board member serves for 3 years, not 37 months, not 35 months. Well, with exceptions of incompetence or whatever. Or moving. It's 36 months is 36 months. And if we're thinking that's just too tight, man. Our city can't quite operate like that consistently. And for the good of the city, we should probably allow a continuity.
And I think the past couple years, and I could be mistaken, but the past couple of years that when interviews have been done by the Board of Aldermen, there's a creep past June 30th for those appointments. And boards have met during that period, and those members have continued in those roles until they've either been reappointed or not reappointed.
Yeah.
And it's just the way the process works. And I will tell you, part of it is, I have a lot of different thoughts on the process, but I'm not an alderman, so I don't really have a role in it, but I would just say that the process to interview everybody is so difficult because there's so many people involved. People applying, people having to reapply for their positions, and the availability of the members that are doing the interviews. I mean, you're talking about calendar issues that just, and that's why it drags on.
Yeah.
I'm sure Tori could tell you, I mean, what she goes through. Last time over, there were over 40 different applicants for the various seats, and so she's trying to schedule 7 people applying for this particular board. Then you have to talk with Frank, and you have to talk with Rebecca, and then you have to talk with the vice chair and line them all up and get all those calendars all and a room. And it's just, yeah, go ahead, Frank.
But if I may, one of the things that happened in the past is that you have members who are applying for multiple boards. So you're gonna have people having multiple interviews and trying to get everybody lined up. And then when you do pick them, there's a creep that's gonna be in there because of the way the Board of Aldermen meet. And if something happens in that Board of Aldermen meeting is pushed out, then that is pushed out. Then it can go on forever.
Yeah.
Now, some of the meetings, when we go and interview, you may have to sit down, the people that are choosing may have to sit down 3 or 4 or 5 times to go back over each candidate. And it took, or it can take, forever to finally decide on who you want. So there's just an unintended creep that is built into it. And you can't, I don't know how you can get away from it, particularly if you have people who are applying for more than one board. But I know this past time, we had a person, 2 people that they interviewed for this board, and the next thing they're running down the hall to interview for another one. So it's just, I don't know if you can limit people to how many they interview for, but that is just a natural roadblock that's built into it just because of what we allow.
And the process really falls on the alderman. It's not for us to have any
Right,
control over. Our question really is, does the person retain their seat until such time that seat is filled either by them or by somebody else?
I'm confused because isn't that addressed in your comment?
It does. It
So what
is.
are we missing that?
I think the question is that legally factual?
Well, it sounds like what we want, because it sounds like the way we do the interviews, it's just the Southport way, man.
Yeah.
So call it what it is. Here's where it gets to be the issue. At what point can you imagine the circumstance that has a high probability of happening where the board becomes ineffective because it doesn't have enough members?
Yeah. And it can happen.
Yeah,
If you were to be rigid and say June 30th, you're done,
yeah.
and you've got a great big meeting coming up on July 1st, and the alderman haven't had an opportunity, you're shortchanging yourself. Yeah.
And for all the reasons you just said, that's not hard to imagine at all.
Yeah.
And so I think G is, we can read the point, like, I think this is a good safeguard. Now, the question.
It's really up to it's truly up to the city clerk and the alderman on this. We're just, again, we're an advisory board, so we're following their lead on this. This is just, this hikes to it, but it's up to the alderman and the city.
Well, unless it's not written anywhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, mine was, I was told that it was an email. So, Frank.
This past time, we interviewed a person, when you took a look at the application, person said, and I don't know why we interviewed this person, said, I'm not really interested in this board. I'm interested in this one, but if I don't get this one, I'd like to have this one. In my opinion, I would have ruled that one out. That's not my primary interest. Get rid of that, save everybody some time. And they let them, if they want to be over here, shove them over there.
Yeah.
Let's don't come in here and muddy the waters here.
Jonathan?
I mean, it's pretty clear that the planning board doesn't really have any control of this. So
Yeah.
if G is implemented, it's implemented by the alderman basically.
Yeah.
And it's good to know. that,
Yeah.
You know, our expectation is that we can show up to that July 1st meeting. And of course, the
Still
alderman,
act,
the
yeah.
alderman can alter that, but it's nice to have it in here.
Yeah, and if the alderman changed his mind, we change the wording.
Yeah. If this is not what the alderman mean, then they can.
Yeah.
But they-
advise us.
The selection would be known before then, right? Before that June 30th. What was the time frame? Or,
You might be true.
It might not be known at that point in time. The only time it's known is if you have unanimous approval for all the candidates. If there's a 2-to-1 vote, then it has to go before the entire board on, and then they vote.
Kevin, are you trying to say something?
Yeah, Chairman, I'm just wondering, trying to understand the extent of the issue, because in subpart G, it basically says the board member continues if they haven't done this selection. So where's the issue other than there's no deadlines and you can't give deadlines? Because as Frank said, when we interviewed this time, people, and they were doing multiple interviews with multiple committees, and then everybody else is, but how does G not cover what we need? Because it seems to be, what authority does a member whose term has expired can maintain authority on the board? And that's what it says in G. So I'm trying to understand if it, I guess if it ain't broke, why fix it? I'm trying to understand what's wrong with the provision as written.
Yeah, I think it's more of a definition question. Is it correct legally? And I think that's where the question came up.
Legally,
No,
there's no precedent that says you can't.
Okay. So we'll leave that as it is unless the city clerk and the alderman think otherwise. I'll change on the section C, change that to 7 members, the number 7. Any other changes on Article 3? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you. Article 4, options and duties. These are also defined in different areas. Basically just says, this is what the chair's gonna do. You know, this is what the vice chair's gonna do when the chair's not there. Any questions on that? Don't add work for me.
Article
You can take away if you want, but.
Well, this is maybe a takeaway.
All right, cool.
Article 5 to adjourn in an emergency meeting. To call for an emergency meeting.
I don't think you just pick off, emergency. To adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Do we not have to have a motion for that? You can call a brief recess.
At any time without a motion. I don't think the Robert's Rules of Order is suspended in an emergency meeting. We put a question mark next to that one, okay? Get back to that one. Yeah. But I don't think the rules change in an emergency meeting. Sorry, rules are the same in an emergency meeting, aren't they? There isn't any special dispensation to,
Not
Oh, by everything.
the order of the meeting, no.
in everything. I mean, there's no suspension of state laws or anything else like that. I mean, emergency meetings really follows all the other guidance and open meeting law and everything, right?
But yeah, I mean, you can, like certain requirements for, noticing them is different and having one, but like to adjourn and stuff, it wouldn't be different.
So maybe just strike that.
I mean, I don't know why it would be any different.
Okay, why don't we strike that? If
You're
nobody's-
talking 5, but I think maybe the better word might just be to adjourn the meeting. Because that is a responsibility of Robert's rules for chairman.
Yeah,
Unless it's been like, in case because this is for the, vice chair, right? Or is this the
no,
chair?
chair.
The only thing I can think of is like the vice chair would have to adjourn if the chair had an emergency. That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
That maybe meant.
But don't you always ask us for a
Yeah, I do.
motion?
Yeah, motion to adjourn, yeah. It was always in order.
If the building's on fire, I think we could skip that part.
We can say
We can
adjourn together.
We'll reconvene outside. Yeah.
But I'll tell you, this was very educational, number 8, while you're putting your question mark, that you don't get to vote unless there are only 3 members present. That was interesting.
Yeah, it was almost like saying the chair's the quorum,
Right.
unless there isn't. I got that in there and I made a mental note on that going, is that really proper? But let's stick to 5 for now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then we'll go to 8.
In discussion, I'm in agree, I would recommend removal or
Okay,
elimination.
just to eliminate any kind of confusion. Anybody all right with that? Strike it, okay. Stick that out.
The-
Was number 5?
Yes, yeah, we'll strike it.
The whole thing.
Yeah. Because you know what, the rest of you follow Robert's rules of order anyway, so. yeah.
Does the chair call an emergency meeting?
I can call an emergency meeting. I don't know what the rules are. I really truly don't know what the rules are about calling an emergency meeting. Well, Tori, what are the rules around something like an emergency meeting? Is that means you don't have to post
Minute.
We just have 1 minute.
publication for advance notice. That when you do an emergency meeting, so that avoids all that pre-notice type of things. But when would a planning board ever meet in an emergency meeting? I just can't think of,
If you were acting in a quasi judicial manner, I think that would be the only.
which we don't. We're an advisory board, so I can't imagine there's ever any reason for us to. And I've always tried to be very careful about the word emergency meeting because I think this board completely changed. Somebody could say, you know what? I want to take care of this person over here, so we're gonna have a meeting tomorrow, which means the public doesn't get put on notice. So and I just don't know what the guardrails are around the.
So the general statute, I pulled this out in conflict or in potential conflicts.
Yeah.
The special meetings and emergency meetings of the board may be called at any time by the chair in conformance with general statute 143-318-.12. That is a particular place and the subject of that emergency meeting must be given when you call it telephonically
Mhm.
or in email.
And it has to be very specific. I mean, it has to be geared towards an actual emergency. You can't just be like, oh, I forgot to notice something, so it's an
Yeah,
emergency.
so that's why I'm trying to think of when would we ever be in an emergency?
What about that unnamed storm last year?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that, but how the planning board.
The planning board probably wouldn't need it as much. The board of aldermen would probably need it more.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. In fact, as an advisor, unless the alderman come and say, hey, we need your help, everybody come in and meet with us. And they're doing an emergency meeting, so we would have to do it as an emergency meeting as well. That'd probably be the only time, but my gosh, I hope we would never meet. Because I feel like we're doing that runs if we were doing that.
To Fred, I think, who said you want to eliminate it all, maybe you just say to call an emergency meeting in accordance with general statute 143-318.12.
And this may be helpful, or maybe not. This is from 1.3. For the purposes of this section, and quote, emergency meeting is what we call because of generally unexpected circumstances that require immediate consideration by the public body. So unexpected circumstances, general, and require immediate consideration.
So I'll give you an example where it might occur. Say you have flooding or a hurricane that requires the Red Cross or some other emergency humanitarian aid to take on a government building without a special permit or without something else. That would apply to planning board to look at that. And that's I'm just making.
Yeah, no, it's a really good example.
which could, but it's, the probability is high for something like that to happen here.
Right, but again, you have to follow the general statute 143,
Yeah.
and as long as we list it, then the chair, whether it's you or somebody in the future,
Yeah.
understands what they have to do for that.
Okay. Give me the section 143.318.
-318.12.
.12.
So another type of emergency could be an ethical one, if there were inappropriate behaviors by members of the planning board.
Yeah.
You
That's
would
a
wait
good
until
example.
next month.
That'd be derived by the operator, would it not?
Yeah.
And they would
They're
be that
appointing
in our
authority. Yeah. Hey, that's when you start reaching out for legal guidance on that sort of thing, because again, we're appointed by the alderman.
Yeah.
But if it goes to special permits or.
Yeah.
To me, I think that's really in our bailiwick, that the only thing we need to look at is really that we provide the guidance source.
Yep.
citation.
So
I feel like that would be staff decision for like things like that,
Yeah.
more so than the board. I really don't see a special.
Staff would
No,
drive.
but I think, having it in here just provides the guidance of, we do, as Maria suggested, to call an emergency meeting subject to 143.318.12. At least you have it in there. And then somebody on the future
You may
board wants to know what an
never need
emergency meeting is for, or how you do it, they can go to that reference. So they have it. Okay. We'll change that to that. So let's jump over to 8. Shall exercise full voting rights on all matters under consideration only in case of tie-in and in instance where there are only 3 other voting members present. I am not a fan of limiting, because I think further on in here, I have, let's see,
Chair, I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chair.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill.
go ahead.
Can you restate what we changed on that last one?
Yeah, so, 5. Article 4B5 will now say to call an emergency meeting, subject to 143-318-12, was North Carolina laws.
It's general statute, yes,
General statute.
143-318.12.
Okay, instead of to adjourn an emergency meeting.
To call,
Right, but we're replacing it with that.
yeah, replace it, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right.
I don't know if this will affect your decision, Mr. Chair, but I can tell you that the Board of Adjustment has the same provision. That the chair only votes in terms of ties or if there's not a full quorum.
God, I hate that, but okay.
Well, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't know if you want to keep in accordance with how the other board does it,
Yeah.
but that's what their standard is.
Yeah, I thought I had something in here that, I'd have to go as we dig through this, because under voting on J, voting shall be done by voice of hand, the chairman shall only vote in case of tie where there are only 3 other voting members. But I thought I had something in here that was all that. Apparently I don't.
I think you made something for the end. If this is helpful, so this is from the FAQ for Robert Rules of Order.
Yep.
If the president is a member of the voting body, he or she has exactly the same rights and privileges as all other members have, including the right to make motions, to speak and debate, and to vote on all questions. So in meetings of a small board, that's us,
Mhm.
not more than about a dozen is what they call small. And in meetings of a committee, the presiding officer may exercise these rights and privileges as fully as any other member. However, and this is kind of the impartiality required by the presiding officer of any other type of assembly, especially with large one, precludes exercising the rights to make motions or speak and debate while presiding, and also requires refraining from voting except when the vote is by ballot or whatever his or her vote will affect the result. So there's sort of this idea for large bodies.
Mhm.
And I think the idea is you got lots and lots and lots of people voting. The public concern is being handled. In small bodies, though, you don't have the opportunity for lots and lots of people to vote. And I mean, even precluding one person's vote, makes a difference. So it's sort of like, Mr. Chair, what would you, now, given that we'll be writing this for the next chair too, what do you think serves the body and the public the best? And I think that's the question for us.
Yeah,
I think the impartiality, since the agenda is sometimes set, I think the conformance to the other codes that Wendell identified, the way the city runs. If I remember correctly, I think the Board of Aldermen, if it's a tie, is the only time a mayor can vote.
right.
I think the consistency of the city and the potential impartiality to make the rest of us work
Yeah.
and him to listen
Yeah,
and go through
which is hard.
fair discussion, right?
Yeah.
And to look at both. To me, why would you change it, right? It's been that way for a while. I just was surprised that it was that way.
Yeah.
And so when you listen to that, to me, your point is correct. He may choose after a year not to be the chair because he wants to vote. He may decide, I've had enough, see you later, right? All those things, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So,
Here's I'm fine with what everybody decides, certainly. And if we decide that I am just the impartial tiebreaker, I'm okay with that too. I just don't want anybody ever to think that, a board chair doesn't have a voice in the debate or even, leaning in a vote. Boy, I don't ever want to give the appearance that I'm afraid to make a decision, because I'm not.
Well, we'll be having a discussion.
Yeah.
You can opinionate all you want.
Yeah,
you also set the agenda and clarify what we can and can't say as to the proper order and
Yeah.
content.
if it gives a better view or better, reality, I guess, of impartiality by not voting. Because I think Sue didn't vote either, unless it was a tie. And I think the prior chair also didn't vote unless it was a tie, correct? So this would
Is
be,
that how everybody remembers it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or she needed to be number 4 of a quorum.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
And that makes sense because
Okay.
otherwise you wouldn't be able to have. a meeting.
yeah,
May I add something?
sure.
With the alderman, the mayor cannot make any motions. The mayor cannot vote
Correct.
unless there's a tie. Now, this mayor will speak his mind. Now, I've been to some previous mayors and they just kind of sat there. Not one word. Now, a couple of times when the current mayor actually made some comments, the newspaper exploded. It said, well, the mayor needs to keep his mouth shut and let the Board of Aldermen do all the talking. Well, that's ridiculous. I want to know what's on the mayor's mind. Now, in previous years, I don't know when the mayor had ever voted, but the first meeting I ever attended, all of a sudden there was a 3-3 tie, and the mayor had to vote, and he's kind of looking like, what the hell am I supposed to do? Vote. And that's happened probably 6 or 8 times with this term. And it's very, very seldom does it occur, but
Yeah, I guess the other side of that is I also don't want to give the appearance that I am, taking away members' rights to an opinion.
Right.
And that's what happens on some boards is that sometimes the chair will speak too much and the others just won't talk at all. Right? So I want to be very, very careful of that. Kevin, are you trying to speak?
Yeah, Larry, on that, I think Maria had some great points. The big picture is this: you're the chair, you're the chief. You determine the agenda. You can speak during the process on any issue that's before the board. And I think that is the reason that you don't have a vote unless there's a tie, goes to just the appearance of impartiality. It doesn't deter the view that you're an important cog and have input, because you talked about the appearance. I think the appearance of impartiality just oversteps any other quote appearance that you're concerned about, because I think every member of this board respects your judgment and your insight, and insight is going to be debated with on any discussion. So I think in looking at the big picture, when you step back, and you say, okay, now you have 6 other competent members that have listened to you and listened to the other members' views, and they're gonna have a vote. And if you go back over the last couple of years, and Fred, you have as good a recollection as I, how many times was there ever a tie? Very- And the information you give is more important than only being limited to vote on when there's a tie. I think there's a reason for that. And I think the way it's written, I don't see the downside as to the efficacy of the board or the input of other board members. And that, to me, that's the big picture, but simple thoughts.
Okay.
To follow up on Kevin's point, I think, at least when I managed groups, the intent I had was that there would be consensus brought amongst the team. And if we couldn't reach consensus, then I would step in and make the decision. I think that's the same spirit that we're trying to do here, is really what we want to govern by consensus with this esteemed group. But if there is the unlikely and rare occasion that as a leader, you need to step in, and we can't just sit and say we're stalemate.
Yeah.
We have to make a decision.
Fine. Believe me, I'm fine with leaving it like it is. I just personally, I've never hesitated to make decisions publicly, privately, whatever. And I guess it's just me wanting to make sure that I'm not becoming a wallflower, because that's not gonna happen. So I'm fine with that. Let's leave
I don't
it.
think you're a wallflower.
Thank you. Yeah, so this has been the case, and let's leave it like it is, so that unless there's a need for me to break a tie or need for quorum, that my role is to chair the meeting, keep things moving along, all votes, and recommend motions, or suggest motions, I guess, and go with that.
I think in that event, it gives your vote that much more strength too.
Yeah,
It makes it more potent.
So, the definition under item 2, under voting J, if that stands as it reads,
yeah,
where if somebody
that's all.
doesn't vote, it counts as an affirmative, are we staying with that? Because if it doesn't count, if they don't vote, then that could pull you into it. There's a tie, I guess, or.
Yeah, no, with the ASMs, you almost have to think of them as being a full member. So let's say we have 3 members come to a meeting and Ed's the 4th, Ed would then become a full member. So I still wouldn't step in. The only time I would step in would be if the alternate couldn't make it and other members couldn't make it.
But I'm talking about if he refuses to vote because he doesn't agree,
Well, it counts,
is it standing as affirmative by not voting? Anyway, if we change that could change the issue we're talking about at hand.
yeah,
Fred, you're near the end, for
Page
what's article?
10.
yeah, page 10, J2. On zoning issue, alternate number, negative if they don't vote. And all other matters counts as a positive. So Ed's rules for Ed are a little bit different.
Yeah,
Rest of us.
I'm
Yeah.
a little bit flummoxed, honestly, by this. Not that it's not by mistake, it's to a purpose, and I just
I
not,
have to think about it.
yeah, and it.
But let's think about that when we get to it.
Okay.
I would agree with that. So J4 would follow with,
I didn't mean to jump ahead.
no, it's fine. No, because it's the same wording that is, Article 4, Section B5, 8, rather. So we're good. All right, let's keep that. You're fine. No, it's not jumping in, but good thing is, I know Ed's already thinking about, what are we doing?
It strikes me that the practical aspect then, the direction that we've gone is you use your seat as first among equals to ask pointed questions that would indicate your leanings. But the idea is, I don't think you guys are thinking about everything that needs to be thought of,
Yeah.
John, so what do you think about something? And then that would be the same as, well, since I'm not getting to vote, I'm gonna ask the question of him that I wish somebody would ask of me. And it could be that John's going, gosh, I know, I hadn't thought of that. And then you're listening that conversation so that we go, oh.
Yeah.
I think that's what you can do from your seat.
Yeah, I just want to be careful about hamstringing future chairs. And it does not sound like this will do that, because this is what we've been doing anyway, right? So,
And, what Doug brings up, motions go through the chair, the agenda is driven by the chair can ask questions, there's public input and all. And so it's an appearance
Yeah.
of impartiality for the chair. And this is an advisory committee. It can be driven by consensus. I don't think there's any problem with that. So, I think it isolates you from any appearance. You're driving the agenda and you're voting, you're bullying the other member, whatever people could perceive, but the public perception is not, I'm not voting unless, under these specific circumstances.
it's a
But
great,
you're following your.
yeah, I think it's a great discussion, and I'm glad we're betting that, because, I'm just glad we are. Yeah, I'm fine with it, we'll go with it, and, it's been standard practice, so we'll continue on. But yeah, thank you. In this way, also, down the road, if a future chair said, why are we doing this? Say, we spent all kinds of time discussing it, and it's a good reason to do it, so. Okay.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question, just out of curiosity, it doesn't seem like that's a coincidence that all three boards have this type of form. Would it be the planning board's authority to modify this type of thing, or would that be something that would have to be handled by the alderman?
Correct.
You want one vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, I,
That's a legal question.
yeah, but you know what? I think it's moot, because we've decided to leave it as it is. So fortunately, we don't have to ask that question. So,
You can decide.
we could change our mind.
Yeah.
But I'm listening to all these members, they're not changing.
Still a draft. There's coming.
Still a draft. But I'm personally, I'm fine with it. I really am. So, yeah, my feelings won't get hurt that I don't get to raise my hand. So.
In a year, you'll get that.
Yeah, the biggest thing to me is being able to participate in the discussion. I would hate to have to sit here and have no authority other than be able to bang a gavel up and down and not be able to participate, because I would step down in a second if I had to put tape over my mouth. I just would not.
Yeah, but you can guide the process by, asking for a motion.
Yeah.
To support something or against it.
I would, and I would hope that along the way, that if I am trying to be less impartial, I would hope the board would call me out and say, settle down. You're really trying to push us in a direction that we're not agreeing with, because it's the board. The board makes the decisions. It's not the chair that makes the decisions, and I just want to be very careful, and I would ask that if I'm really pushing really hard against the tides, you guys just say, you make the motion, you call a vote, and you move it along, and that's the way it works. A discussion.
There's a stipulation later on too, by the way, which is, hey, we can change any of these rules if we all vote on it. And
Yeah.
it could be on this particular meeting, I want to vote.
Suspend the rules.
Yeah, I'd like to suspend this rule for this meeting. We take a vote.
Yeah.
The challenge is, what we do is, you can quickly see you put the chair in a position, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Here's how things play out in humanness, right? Is you end up being Lyndon Johnson, which is, you put the chair in a position, is like, well, I'm gonna go have a cup of coffee with you, and then you, and then you, and then you, and then I'm gonna guide all you guys in behind. Because to Ed's point, I think we want a board that by and large thinks about the same things for about the same reasons.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we're gonna get that board. That just means that's the kind of cool board to have.
Is it? When you need fresh perspective, when you need, I kind of enjoy the discussion here because I think that in order to come to the best solution, consensus and agreement in the same direction from all 7 of us doesn't look well to the public. There should be discussion. There should be motions that are different. There should be ideas that come up. If all 7 of us,
In conflicts.
yes.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
all 7 of us are in uniform agreement, I would be amazed by that.
Yeah.
Because I go, where's the lemming suit? I want to put it on, right? Where is it?
Yeah.
That's just my opinion,
No, I
right?
think it's a good one. I want to say, I want to be careful with my language, which is we think about the same things for about the same reasons. And so the idea is, we're acting, to me, what that says, Maria, is not that I think the same way as you, or I'm going to come, is you and I share a principle about what it is we're trying to do here and how we're trying to do it. And as a result, we have some consonance in our thinking.
And I think that's the whole goal of the rules of procedures, to get to that point with the content being different among each other.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
which results practically in a vote, I guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
To clarify, I wanted to draw the distinction between unanimity and consensus. They're not the same.
No,
So if we're 3-3, there's a problem.
Hmm.
If we're 5-2, I would say that's consensus. 7-0, that's
Yeah.
rare.
So, well, something powerful is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not quite sure what it is, but something.
You know, if you stop and think, just this discussion alone, just tells you how this board is gonna work. And, you know, that there is some good conversation and we're not always all going down the same set of tracks, that, you know, we might be heading in the same direction, but we're on a different line. Yeah, this is perfect, great discussion. So let's move on. I do want to call the meeting, just so we're not here all day, because staff has things too, is why don't we plan on ending at 11 this morning, unless you guys think otherwise. And we can always come back and continue another time too, if you guys are all, by guys, I mean, everybody.
When would you like this to be done, wrapped up?
When it's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a goal date on this one.
Because it's not keeping us from doing good work right now. It's just
Yeah,
when-
and that's, and this one is so important to the board and how we operate that I don't want to rush it. If you guys want to set a date, we can do that too. Just I'm finding that setting up meetings, between staff's availability, liaison's availability, room availability, and also having Cheyenne's availability because it's broadcast. It's, what we can do is we can ask staff for some future dates and set these as regular meetings on Wednesdays or something like
I'd
that.
like to make a recommendation.
Just be careful on, yeah, recommendation of motion.
My recommendation is that in addition to a follow-up meeting, can we send you and Tori items that may be typo or in conflict
Sure,
or
absolutely.
specific
Yeah.
to kind of move the process
Yep.
along?
Yep.
Because it's good work.
Yeah.
I have a few comments, but not a lot. And I think that that will help speed the process for us, Larry, and then we can have any of the additional. I'm enjoying the discussion because it shows us where people are thinking and how they're thinking. But to the point of getting it written so it's published and ready to go, there might be a little efficiency there.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, good idea. And Doug had already sent some, as well early today. I didn't get a chance to look at them, but, I'm sure I'll have some more after this meeting. John?
So edits go to you and Tori or? to the
Yes.
whole board?
Let's do it so that we're not getting into a, legal discussion or, you know, problem with the open meeting laws. Yeah, just send them to me individually and, Tori as well. And then we'll combine them all into a larger document and make, if there are some substantive changes with respect to, sections or spelling mistakes and things like that, yeah, then we'll just do it. Otherwise, we'll bring them together and discuss them as points.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I won't make any changes without everybody, without buy-in.
Okay.
Right, planning staff, this just really defines what the planning service director does, that they report to the city manager, to the planning, Gwendol. Full reports to no,
Yes, sir.
yeah, not a direct line to the board of all,
No, directly to Noah,
because all city staff reports to Noah, correct?
Yes, sir. He's the top of the pyramid, and from him to the alderman, there should be no direct line between anyone outside of Noah and the alderman,
Okay,
so.
all right.
And, you know, unofficially, like,
The department head report to Noah.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. All right, with dotted lines elsewhere.
I have no problems with this, but I have a general information question.
Sure.
When I look at items 2 and 3, Roman numerals on
Yep.
page 4.
Yep.
The planning service director is supposed to keep us up to date on all development activities as well as legislative bills.
Mhm.
Those have been done in the last 2 months orally. Is there a written list so that when we
Yeah.
look for new business, that all of us on the planning board understand Indigo or Water
Yep.
or Waterway or whatever the new name is,
Sure.
has a specific list and what's accomplished, the
Yeah.
hotel, whatever. That way we can kind of come and bring new information or ask questions about, hey, this hasn't been updated. And even on the legislation items, if we have a written list of those, it allows us to do homework before or after a meeting when we learn about those legislative items.
Sure. So what I did after the last meeting was put together, for that very reason, as well as the reason for the liaison and the alderman to have a quarterly report. I created what was called a dashboard / pipeline report. And the dashboard is the 50,000 foot view of everything that's gone on over the past 3 or 4 years with respect to development in the city of Southport. So we'll talk about site plan reviews, things like that. And then the pipeline part is exactly what you're asking about. It's got sections in there for legislative updates. It's got sections in there for whether it's the conditional zoning that's going on. So everything that we've worked on would be in that pipeline report. What's going on for major site plans? What's the current status? What's the current status of Waterway? You know, are there 20% of lots, have they been completed? Have they been started? So the whole idea is to provide a document, and including legislative things, because I just want that. I agree with you. I want things in writing. Because
Thank
if you have them in writing, then you have to update it, and we can make sure that they're updated on a quarterly basis. But it's also a document that not only does the planning board have awareness of everything that's going on, everything that's in the pipeline, everything that's coming through, such as what might be going on with some certain development, or even a major site plan or what have you, such as the hotel. Where does the hotel stand? You know?
Right, I'm
Yeah.
just requesting something. It doesn't have to be that detailed,
Oh,
but it allows you
Yeah.
to kind of be cognizant of all the implications of our decisions.
Yeah.
And sometimes that information has not been out there. And I'll tell you, the most surprising element was the fact that that hotel was identified in the county in 2002, right, on that land.
Mhm.
Yet you had to go back and look through the legal documents to find it, or the
Yeah.
major site plan development.
Yep.
And that's something that, in my opinion, should have been kind of an awareness factor for planning board members before us, right?
Yeah.
So,
And that's what happens. It disappears over 20 years.
And
Then
then
suddenly
comes
it's found again. Yeah. So the document,
okay,
staff is working on it now because I filled in a whole bunch of spaces. Now they're going through it and digging through everything to actually fill in all the blanks that I couldn't fill in. And the idea is once that pipeline report is done, it's really to go back over the past 5 or 6 years, whatever it is. When we're done with that, we will take out all the things that have been completed and aren't in the pipeline anymore, and that'll give us a much fewer pages. Right now, it'll be substantial because of everything all the work that's been done. But again, it'll boil it down to once we review it, accept it, remove the things that have been completed. There'll be a nice dashboard report, which is the one pager, the cover page, if you
Which is
will.
what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and then the rest of it is the detail behind what's going on, what's in the pipeline.
So,
So, yeah.
sorry to take up your time. I
No.
just wanted to
It's in work.
get clarification related.
Yeah, I don't have a delivery date on it yet, but hopefully we'll get it within the next couple of meetings. So there is a lot of work on it. But I also think the Alderman should be aware of what's going on too. So that if there are things that are going between boards or what have you, that I think there needs to be more awareness on a large basis. And if we do this correctly, it'll also be out on the website so the public can see it as well too. So the public is informed. And that's at the end of the day, the public, we can all look at this, but the public are the ones that really need to know as citizens and as taxpayers, what's actually happening in the community and so forth. So yeah, that.
Mine is more simple. Tell
Okay.
me what the activities are
Yeah.
and tell me what the new legislation is. Those
Yeah.
might just be 3 or 4 bullets. I'm good with that. That would be simple enough to kind of track.
Sure.
So may I ask, is that something that will be pushed to us, or is it it's gonna reside somewhere?
It's gonna be pushed to us, so we'll be looking for staff. I think there are some things, once we get the report done, then we can decide what do we want to see on a monthly basis, what do we want to see on a quarterly basis. So it's really, we almost have to wait for the whole report to be done to decide which parts do you want to see updated more frequently. To me, legislative should be done monthly. We should know every single meeting if there's something with the annexation or what have you. We're aware of exactly what's going on at that point. Does that help?
It does. I guess my question was, is there a repository? I'll use terms that I've used, SharePoint, website,
Yeah.
something like that, where these are maintained by the staff.
I hope they
But
have
real time.
Yeah, real time.
Regulation.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Real time, I don't know. I don't know what software they have. I'll just use an example. When we started the cemetery committee, we had a SharePoint site. It was taken down because it was not considered. I think they thought it was violating open meeting laws because we could go at it. So I would hope that once this is complete, that at least be kept up to date on the city website. So, but the bigger question is, what software would you have that would automatically keep it up to date so that it doesn't matter, we don't have to wait for the meeting, that we can actually look at it 3 days before to see, all right, now I know what they're gonna talk about. I can prepare for the meeting, for the questions and things like that,
So
so.
we use SharePoint. That's, and it's, sounds fun to you guys.
Yeah, but I'm thinking more like project tracking.
Um,
And that's what we need is something for tracking the project. What do you use now for tracking these different applications when they come in? Sure, not just, you do? What would you?
So all applications are numbered and itemized in a certain way, and that's how we keep track of which one's next and the previous ones. So like, for instance, if, major site plan comes in, it's an AG tag 25 tag 01, and then next to that would be the address. Or if there's not an address, the name of the proposal, things like that.
God, I haven't done SharePoint reporting in such a long time, but we could use that as a live report if we go into it, create a report around it. So we're just using what you've already updated. Other than maybe the legislative stuff would have to be purposely updated. The rest of it's all on the queue.
So,
Hmm.
so once upon a time, in the, previous years of the planning board, there was a portal set up where we had a login as a planning board member. That's never been used. I even did a test posting the logo, Southport logo there, and a comment, nobody saw it, but it was does that ring a bell for you?
The civic website?
I don't remember what portal it was. I'd have to go back and look.
SharePoint now has the ability to allow permissions on specific projects or to create a site in which a copy of those are there. That is the question for IT as you go forward, so that you have tracking. It prevents the open meetings violation, so that you have the ability to see who is reviewing the document,
Yeah, read only.
who doesn't. So
Yeah,
that's
I
what
would
we're
say-
talking about.
But I thought we had, on cemetery committee, I thought we had it set up, and then it was taken down because of, but you know what, let's work through it. I think, I like the idea of having it automated. You can do reporting with SharePoint. Let's see what we can do to, make everybody's life a lot easier instead of having to fill out some PowerPoint presentation every single, month and make sure that it's up to date.
I do have one comment, for the planning staff on item A, number 2.
Yep.
Would that not be an opportunity to include verbiage to also include updates on board of adjustment issues?
We can say including board of adjustment.
Which we do.
Yeah, but we can put it in here too. Including board of
A classic example is when there was a project going on, the planning board was not aware of, unless we knew to go look to see what the Board of Adjustments were doing, but an applicant was going around the planning board to get permission from the Board of Adjustments, and nobody on the planning board was aware of that, because we didn't have to go look.
Hmm.
Or what was going on with the agenda, if the agenda was even there. And I know there's an easy agenda button now on the city website,
Mhm.
but I think that's a fairly new thing. But anyway, would that be an opportunity to include that?
Is that a legal question, since the Board of Adjustment is quasi judicial, and they've even encouraged some of the attendees to bring legal counsel? I would just check. I'm in agreement with you. There are issues, but it may not be what's before the Board of Adjustment, but what is the result of a decision at the Board of Adjustment.
I think it needs to be
Both.
there, before.
I'm just asking, because legally, I don't know, since it's quasi judicial, if you were going before it, whether or not legally you're entitled to know that issue. They make announcements, but
Oh, yeah,
again,
no.
I'm not.
Yeah, no, it is, it's open meeting. And under the prior chair, started work with staff to bring that up, have those notifications made to the planning board. Because of what Fred's talking about, I think it was back in May or April when we started doing that. I like the idea of not only know what's coming in, but what the results. So, because there's sometimes that the Board of Adjustment could be making decisions that we could really work. If they've got this, they're making the same decision every single time, and then you have to say, well, wait a minute, why do folks have to go to the Board of Adjustment for this answer when they were continuously approving it? Then we should adjust our UDO so that that doesn't have to be an item that people need to go to the Board of
That's
Adjustment.
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
What is our connection with the Board of Adjustment? Is there any feedback control where we can collaborate to say,
No,
let's solve this very thing?
sorry, no, you can't interfere with the Board of Adjustment and collaborate with them in terms of that.
What I need is, Larry's point,
Chairman?
if we UDO, it says 14 feet, and everybody goes in there saying we need 15 feet, why would we continue to force
14 feet.
businesses
Yeah.
to the 14 feet?
Yeah.
Where if we were to say, would we consider that? Is there any reason why we couldn't adjust it from 14 to 15?
That would be staff's ability to address that, in text amendment. If there's a routine variance coming up that we're seeing, our job is to assess that and be like, this is ridiculous that we're
Okay, so you're the
going
lead.
before the board for this assess.
If I could, Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, to answer some questions. One, Maria, as far as any legal restrictions, there isn't. I think what Fred mentioned is a concern and had been a concern prior to the new members being on the board. And I think that maybe the way to handle it, subject to your all's thoughts, is this. We should be advised what's going to be pending before the Board of Adjustments. That way we have input with Mo or any other representative of the city as to our position. Because it is it's a quasi judicial, it's an evidentiary hearing. So there's really there's no way to collaborate with them prior to any evidence being introduced. I think the proper way to do it is if we're allowed to coordinate with them prior to being on notice of an issue that would affect either something that's before us or going to be before us, then how do we work with city staff so we have input with regard to the witnesses all at that evidentiary hearing? That would seem the more logical way to handle it. Your thoughts?
Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong here. There are a couple of instances prior to where something was before the planning board, somebody might not like it, and they slip over here to the Board of Adjustment and try to get a ruling there or a variance, and the planning board was not aware of it. So I'm kind of like pecking orders. Go to the planning board, and if you don't like, then go to the Board of Adjustment, as opposed to going to both and not really knowing what's going on. I know the previous chair and I had that discussion a couple of times, because in my opinion, that creates a problem for you guys. If you're working on something, they don't like or they think I might not like what I'm gonna get here. So I'm gonna run over here and get this and then come back to you.
Yeah, the other side of that is when the hotel was, they had already gone through the Board of
Right.
Adjustment, which worked perfectly. They did what they should have done. What happens is when the applicant is running to mom and dad at the exact same time. And I don't know how we prevent that.
Right, that is a real problem. What they did with the hotel is they went ahead and got the variance and then came to you.
Yeah.
Because you already knew what you were dealing with from a legal perspective.
Wendell?
Sorry, no. Disregard.
Okay. Kevin, does that help?
Oh,
Too late.
Yeah. What Nick was talking about, there was supposed to be, a particular person was told to file an amended site plan by the city. The site plan was to then be presented to us, and while that was pending, they did the end run to the Board of Adjustments. And we weren't aware of that, and it ended up with a result which was interesting because of the lack of input or evidence that should have been introduced at that hearing. So the question is, how can you make sure the evidence that's being presented at a quasi-judicial hearing is the best forward by the city? And do we have any input to that if it's going to something before us? I mean, that's the only way I think you can do it, framework that exists right now.
I might have, Kevin, I might have missed that. So we have something that exists right now and we're not using it well? Or are you proposing something?
I'm proposing, we had talked about it before, about having I guess it was an interdepartment, having a procedure within the city that we would be notified of all matters that were going to come before the Board of Adjustments to see if it dealt with anything before us, so that we had notice. And then the next step is, once you have notice of anything of interest that may affect a matter pending before the board or going to be presented to the board, what input are we allowed to have with the city? And then you look at what we're allowed to do, or an advisory. Can we have input to Mo in the city planning department with regard to potential evidence or witnesses to be called? Because we work for the city. In the presentation at these hearings, the city is supposed to put forth witnesses. They're sworn in under oath. You can introduce documentary evidence. So the issue is, and what's the format we want to follow in the future? And I think that's something we discuss with Wendell, Mo, and figure out, is there a quote procedure we can follow? Because there's nothing in our guidelines or authorities that prevent us from doing that.
True, and thank you for answering, Kevin. One of the things that I think is interesting is just adding to numeral 2 that we are advised of the Board of Adjustment calendar or agenda items. And the reason I say that is because we're only advisory as a planning board, it would be not very good of the city to make new planning board decisions if somebody's coming up before the Board of Adjustment, our recommendations and discussions should relate to what has already been approved in the UDO, not what we really think, but why we have UDO rules or organizations, so that we're not maybe biased against someone or something, because it goes down both ways. So I see both sides of that, and I appreciate the evidentiary hearing and everything else, but you have to be really careful. What we can advise the planning director is really only what's been approved, and clarify anything that's not already in writing, because otherwise we'd be kind of sticking in the mud there a little bit. Wendell?
What we want to avoid is not interrupting the due process of the, any applicant.
Right.
And I think the concern that this conundrum, and I'll just say the whole frog place that causes, bullfrog, thank you, causes conundrum. There's a couple of processes that could be reevaluated and looked at. But ultimately, they still had the due process right to go to the board while waiting for the planning, or to the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah.
Well, so one way or the other, they were just playing the game that they are allowed to play.
Yeah, that's right.
And I just want to make sure that
When
that's.
there are no rules, you can make.
But
it-
I also think it worked well to the compliment of the hotel, who went to the Board of Adjustment first, because they
Yeah.
looked at the written rule. They said, hey, we're not gonna meet the written rule, let's make your life easier, go to the Board of Adjustment.
First steps guidance.
Right.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
me, it worked either way, but thank you, that's
Right,
great.
it also works that they come to us, and they don't like what we have to say, so they don't go to the board.
Correct.
Because unfortunately, the state doesn't have the law that says this is the steps, these are the steps you must take first, but I get that. I want to, wrap up really quick, because we've got about a minute left. Anything on the clerk part of this?
M&Ms,
What's that?
the M&Ms.
Oh, we'll add a section 5 there. We must bring the piece of evidence.
We'll call it snacks.
Yeah. All right, so, good, John.
Larry, I've got a general comment on Article 5 that we can address next time, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking that there should be an item C here for city attorney, legal advisor. And
There is a note on that a little later, John, if you want to bring that up.
Yeah.
Before, bring it forward to Dr.
there's a process now. Apparently, we haven't seen it
I
work
think we
yet.
need- Yeah, Article 8 is legal counsel.
Yep.
On page 13. But I think you're right. I think we need to develop some kind of a set of procedure on that. And my idea is, I think it is, when we're at a meeting, we're asking for legal advice. Staff gets it, provides it to council, gets the response in writing. I'm not a fan of verbal, because I think when you have it in writing, then you've got to change the chain of custody of how the question was asked, how it was answered, and it's all in writing. Yeah. Wonderful.
This is trivial probably, but just for your consideration, changing planning director to the UDO administrator. That's what is used in the UDO.
So
I think it's more encompassing.
not the planning services director. That's her title.
That's her title, but anyone, we all act as the UDO administrator. I just wanted to put forth that as an idea. It's something that I thought was more encompassing.
Where would you put that?
In lieu of planning director, I would say the UDO administrator.
Yeah, I was looking at,
But can't that be different? Because
Yeah.
in this particular time, there's one person filling essentially 2 slots.
Correct.
But the reality is, the planning service director, in my mind, the way I understand it now, is the person that looks at all of the technical, the plans, the sightings. That's not the UDO administrator. The UDO administrator works on the wording of the rules that are published for everybody to see. I see them as 2 different responsibilities,
one
even
is
if they're
specific.
even if they're currently Because then I have an administrative person, a UDO manager, who's gonna report to me, who talks about the UDO, when in reality, I might want the planning services director that gives me information about major site plans, technical, requirements. I just see them.
I see how you discern that, and I would count it's my,
Are you talking about paragraph 2 or 3?
A1.
A1. Okay.
Well, all of it, really. But I think, Ms. Morgan's point made it very clear to me that it was unnecessary.
And I debated also whether to put something in there with relation to your role. Maybe we should add something with other staff as well. 'Cause-
No, that's not what I was looking for. I was just trying to make it more encompassing with, more in keeping with, the UDO.
Yeah,
Because we don't use the term planning director in the UDO, it's just the UDO administrator,
Yeah.
which is most
Yeah, make it
ultimately,
more of a broader umbrella.
yeah,
Yeah.
but.
And that creates confusion, Wendell. So in the UDO, I can see where you might say the planning services director also functions as the UDO manager because that's administrative and rules that we have to follow. But for a planning board committee, looking for planning documents, technical review committee,
Yeah, I agree.
it's different
I agree.
in my mind. I could be wrong.
No, I think you highlighted something that I didn't consider, so before I made the motion.
And so right now, the planning services director and the UDO administrator are the same person?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's say tomorrow we get a UDO administrator. Who does the UDO administrator answer to?
Planning services director.
Okay, and what the board would like is just one person talking to him and, yeah, okay,
Yeah, we want the planning services
yeah,
director.
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
The hat she wears as planning services director.
Because that's the big umbrella essentially.
Yeah.
We would get the UDO stuff under that.
So I've got 11:03. If nobody opposes, you're gonna continue this on.
Can I bring up a point, if you think it's edifying, you and I have exchanged a couple of emails, only because, there's some sensitivity about sending emails to everybody at one time and then replying to them. About open and public meetings. Is it edifying to the group to discuss what I've learned from you on that?
Go ahead.
Okay,
Well, this is supposed to be a one subject,
got it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, I think we need to stick with a one subject, but yeah, sorry. Further question, but
No, I
Can
mean,
you do it informally after the adjournment?
if Doug wants to speak to everybody and we want to listen, and Tori says no. So, no, and the answer is no.
Okay.
So, anyways, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn. We'll all get some dates, run them by everybody, and Ed, go ahead.
Housekeeping issue
Yes,
regarding planning staff.
Yep.
The published on the website, the information is not completely correct and there's people missing, so.
That's right.
Doug
that's
missing.
right. Yeah,
I'm on there.
yeah, I saw that.
My name is misspelled, but I am getting emails.
That's why I'm not.
Yes, I did. So we're getting community feedback.
Yeah,
I got some from the newspaper, so they do know where I live
Oh,
apparently, so.
yeah, we are working on, there's some small nits and gnats that we need to take care of, and that's one of the items along the way. Tori's got a full listing. After I circulated amongst everybody, I sent the final one, which I think I also sent it out to everybody as well. Not to get down that road, but Tori and I have a disagreement on what should be out there. And without going down that road, my feeling is because of the way people are able to triangulate addresses, emails, and phone numbers, and specifically hackers that come in and they scrape this information, they're now able to identify who this person is by looking at this, oh, this is the same one. And my feeling is that the planning board should have an email that goes to the city that vetted through staff and then out to us. And that's how the planning board should be contacted. Tori and I are working on our disagreement, and that's just me. So, yeah, I think I'm not sure the city even has a policy on that. So it might have been something that the way it's always been done, so, yeah.
This is a one item agenda, sir.
You're right. So anyway,
Procedure.
yeah, it's now 11:05. I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn. Second,
Second,
motion been made, seconded, further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I can't vote anymore. Anyway, great meeting. Thank you, everybody. Diane, let me know.
very interesting